We build a nested component using the same techniques we use to build any other Angular component. We won't review that again here. Let's instead lay out a checklist for inputs and outputs. Decorate a nested component property with the input decorator anytime it needs input data from its container. Any type of component property can be decorated with the input decorator. Don't forget the prefix, and since the input decorator is a function, follow it with open and closing parentheses. Decorate a nested component property with the output decorator anytime it needs to raise events and optionally pass information back to its container. Only properties of type event emitter should be marked with the output decorator. Use the event emitter's generic argument to specify the type of the event payload. And use the new keyword to create an instance of the event emitter. Don't forget the prefix, and since the output decorator is a function, suffix it with open and closing parentheses. In a Container Components template, use the nested component as a directive. For the name of the directive, see the Nested Components Selector property. Use property binding to pass data to the nested component. Any property of the nested component that is decorated with the input decorator can be used as a binding target. Use event binding to respond to events from the nested component. Any event that is decorated with the output decorator can be used as the binding target. And use $event to access the event payload passed from the nested component. This module was all about nested components. We began by building a component that could be nested within other components. We then walked through how to use the nested component within a container. We saw how to pass data into the nested component by binding to a property marked with the input decorator. And we discovered how to pass data out of the nested component by raising an event marked with the output decorator. In this module, we built the star component and nested it within the product list component. We can reuse this component in any other component of the application, such as the product detail component. Next up, let's check out how to build an Angular service so we won't need hard-coded product data in our component.